Hello all. Today we are going to talk about 5 energy bodies and 5 elements of creation. The kingdom of God is within you, and to know that we need to understand what are we, what is it that's inside us and around us, what happens inside us and outside. One of the Indian poet called Kabir once said, I am not a Hindu, nor a Muslim am I. I am this body, a play of 5 elements, a drama of spirit, dancing with joy and sorrow. So today, we are going to look at 3 main areas. To understand the 5 different energy bodies, or Panchakoshas, 5 sheets of multi-dimensional maps of the human being from Taittiriya Upanishad. Secondly, we're going to look at a brief overview of its cosmological orientation to the universe from the Samkhya philosophy. And finally, we are going to discuss about the 5 elements of creation. Panchakoshas, the 5 energy bodies, or the 5 sheets, are discussed in Brahmandavali chapter of Taittiriya Upanishad, which is the part of the Taittiriya Samhita of the Krishna Yajurveda, likely composed around 6th century BC, and in which particular chapter is discussed ways and means to achieve the Brahman, the God, the Atman, giving a detailed description of the dimension of human personality or the dimensions of the self. According to the yoga tradition, every one of us has 5 bodies, each made of increasingly finer grades of energy. Only the densest is made of matter, the human body. The other 4 are energy states invisible to the physical eye, though we can easily sense their presence inside us when we pay close attention to it. Once we developed an understanding of these 5 koshas or these 5 energy bodies, it helps us slowly peel off these layers and bring us closer to our true identity. And if we intend to live a fully balanced, healthy life, it tells us all our bodies, inside and out, needs to be kept aligned to get most out of our lives. It is also known as the Panch Maya model or the 5 illusionary model. So, the 5 energy bodies are: the first one is Annamaya or the physical body. The second is Pranamaya, which is the energy body. The third is Mannamaya Kosha, which is the emotional body. The next is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the intellect wisdom body. And the outermost is the Anandamaya Kosha, which is the joy and the blissful body. First, we're going to talk about the Annamaya Kosha. It's the first sheet or the innermost densest layer. This sheet is sustained by food. The Annamaya Kosha is the gross physical body, the muscles, the bone, the connective tissue, organs, etc. According to the ancients, the physical body consists of 5 aspects: the head, the torso, the 2 arms, and the 2 legs. This kosha corresponds to the elements earth and water. Who care for this body are nourished by the universe itself. The second one is the Pranamaya Kosha, which is the life energy body. The Pranamaya Kosha is comprised of prana or the life energy that governs the functioning and growth of organisms. The Pranamaya Kosha corresponds to our physiology or the functioning of the human system, like the respiration, digestion, circulation, etc. It corresponds to the elements of fire and water. Our physiology is flow itself, largely liquid-based, and operates through a network of vessels and nerves that spreads like flame throughout the body. Fire and liquid also commingle in those substances that are electrochemical in nature or acidic and hence corrosive in some sense. The traditional practice of pranayama work directly at this level of our being. Those who treat this vital force as divine experience gain excellent health and longevity because this energy is the source of physical life. This kosha is further subdivided into 5 pranas, which is the Apanna, Udana, Samana, Vyana. The first one, Apanna, has a downward movement and it is responsible for elimination and reproduction functions like the stool and the urine, the expelling of semen, menstrual fluids, and fetus, the elimination of carbon dioxide through the breath. The second is Udana, which has an upward movement and is responsible for the growth of the body, the ability to stand, speak, effort, enthusiasm, and will. Next is Samana. It is used for the process like digestion of food or lungs to digest the air, and sensory, emotional, or mental experiences. Vyana moves from the center to the periphery. It governs circulation on all levels. It moves the food, water, blood, and oxygen throughout the body. It keeps our emotions and thoughts circulating in the mind. In doing so, it assists all the others. As you can see, all these are different ways to balance our life energy. The next one is the Manomaya kosha, which is the emotional body. The third kosha is mainly responsible for Manas, which is the mind, one of the Sanskrit word which describes mind. So Manomaya corresponds to the mental sphere. Moreover, Manas or the mind describes the part of the mind that primarily registers the impressions from our senses. Manomaya does not specifically correspond to the brain or the nervous system, but rather to their functioning, as well as to our basic experience of mental activity, including but not limited to emotion and thought production. Chanting is the traditional set of practices that work in this area. Manomaya corresponds to the element of air and space. Those who understand and control the mental body are no longer afflicted by fear. Vijnanamaya kosha, or the intellect wisdom body. The fourth kosha is called Vijnanamaya kosha, that is translated to the intellect or the buddhi, an intuitive knowledge or wisdom. Like Manomaya, Vijnanamaya does not correspond directly to a physical structure, but rather to our experiences of intelligence, intuition, and insight. It is the coordinator or the organizer of the sensory input. Our intellect gives us the discriminative capability, the samskaras, that helps us differentiate between good and evil, between right and wrong. The intellect can be looked upon as having two components, one that is controlled by our ego and driven by our past memories and impressions, or the samskaras, and the other which is controlled by our pure intuition. The ego-driven intellect can lead to actions which result in pain and suffering, while actions driven by pure intuition will give us satisfaction and happiness. Meditation is the traditional practice that works to balance and investigate this arena to our being. The Vijnanamaya Kosha corresponds to the space element. Those who establish their awareness here free themselves from the unhealthy thoughts and actions and develop the self-control necessary to achieve all their goals. Anandamaya Kosha, the fifth and the final kosha, is also known as the joy and the bliss body. And so the last body in the model is known as the sheet of bliss. The Anandamaya kosha is closest to our own most essential nature and is therefore the subtlest of the sheets. Devotional practices is the traditional modality that corresponds to this arena of our being. Anandamaya kosha corresponds mostly different to the element space. It is experienced as happiness, delight, and bliss. Now we are going to talk about the Panch Tattva, the 5 elements. We must understand that Tattva, which is a Sanskrit word, doesn't exactly convert itself to the scientific word elements. This Panch Tattva is more of 5 different vibrations because according to Vedic science, everything is a vibration, and so this corresponds more to the core 5 basic vibrations rather than the elements as we see it in science. In science, there is also a similar theory called the string theory, which is trying to prove that everything is nothing but a vibration. So, our immediate experience is composed of these 5 elements of nature: earth, water, fire, air, and space. This is what anything and everything in this world is made of. Pragmatically, the elements apply to our experience within the same general categories as the Panch Kosha models, both as objective descriptions and subjective metaphors. As objective descriptions, they trace a stage in the creation process from pure consciousness, which is space, to delineated form, the earth, and they describe the relative moment to think in the external world, the degree of motion, fixity, and mass. Second, as subjective metaphors, they describe our innermost experiences, deep sensation patterns, and emotional and psychological states of mind coincident with those experiences. It is understood that when a certain quality of thought or action predominates our disposition, a certain element is present. From this perspective, we are the dance of the mass, the earth, feeling and flow, the water, heat and subtlety, fire, thought and primordial sensations, air, and the pure awareness or consciousness, the space. So, any feeling we have usually does correspond to these 5 elements. So the first we're going to talk about the space, or also known as Akasha. Space is the primary element within which the other 4 secondary elements, air, fire, water, earth, emerge. Like within space, the whole earth emerges, and within earth, all of us emerge. Its source is consciousness. Space is unrestricted immediacy, directness, freedom, and being. We become aware of consciousness through its medium, which is our awareness. To support our awareness of space, we must concentrate. Space is fundamentally embodied by the technique of drishti, which is the focused meditation. The next is air, Vayu. Air is the next subtlest of the elements. In practice, the source of air is felt in the throat when Ujjaini pranayama is engaged. The medium of air is the skin through which we feel the moments of its presence, both internally and externally. Its support is the limbs, which are used in the posture or practice to help upon and stabilize the the thoracic cavity, thus maximizing the respiratory potential. Air is embodied in the technique of pranayama, which is the attention to the moments of the inhale, the exhale, and still transition which separates them. The sign of air's authentic embodiment is the opposite of the moment, a grounded, steady stillness. The next is fire. Fire is transformation, purification, strength, explosiveness, intensity, abundance, and integration. The source of fire is the solar plexus, often referred to as the solar node. It is the dense matrix of interconnecting nervous tissue that spreads out like flame in an abdominal cavity. The arena of fire is the abdomen and the small intestine, where bile and hydrochloric acid the heat food we ingest, breaking them down into constituent parts so they can be integrated into the whole. Its medium is the nadis, which is the metaphorical subtle conductors of energy in the body. The support for fire is the throat. Next is water, which is also known as in Sanskrit as apas. Water is feeling of softness, fluidity, and power. It is taking the line of the least resistance, exchanging adaptability and continuity. Evolution has dictated that humans manifest as bipedal creatures that walk upright. The quality of our movement is determined by the quality of our concentration to the earth, connection to the earth. Thus, the source of water is soul of the food. Its medium is the bones, structured, rigid enough to convey the potential power of locomotion. When it is established, it manifests as the apparent opposite of delicacy, which is power. Earth, Prithvi, the final element. Earth is the final necessary ingredient in the process of condensation which manifests the world as we know it. Without it, the other element forces become the unstable and destructive. The fundamental expression of earth is thus form. The arena of the earth is spine, the densest, most cohesive structure in the core of the body. It houses the spinal cord and form a kind of trunk upon which the physical body, the organ, including the brain, heart, lungs, are arranged. The integrity of the spine is thus crucial to our organism, both in terms of the structure and the function. The support for the earth is pelvis, that which lies at the base of our spine. If the pelvis is deranged in any way, either through injury or chronic muscular imbalance, the spine begins to lose both its natural mobility and strength. Earth is embodied in the technique of asana, and its cultivation is the practice of alignment. So what have we learned from the 5 energy bodies and 5 elements of creation? First thing is, we need to think beyond our physical body and think about our other external bodies that we can't perceive, and trying to align our physical body to those energy bodies so we can unlock our true potential. Through the 5 elements, we realize that each of those elements are the 5 elements of creation. Everything has come from it and goes back into it. It just transforms from one side of things to other. Each element is linked to our bodily parts, our emotions, and each of them has dedicated asanas or yogas, physical yogas, to unlock their full potential. When we align our physical body through exercise, through maintaining it to our five energy bodies, we unlock the true potential of our own self, our own true self. We can clearly see that transformational science of Hatha Yoga evolved to work with our basic existential situation. We are a multidimensional beings in a universe where the impermanence of the things we perceive is the law that holds sway from the beginning to the end of our lives. Within the Panchamaya, the elemental techniques are to help us recognize the situation as it is and inquire into the possibility of finding the balance and the stability within it. So the process of yoga is to align our five sheet bodies with our physical body. When all of these are aligned through the technique of Ashtanga Yoga given to us in Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, enables the process of Kundalini in our body reaching to a stage of enlightenment or awakening. The reason to know or discuss this is understanding the intent and the science behind doing what we do, which would help us to be more aware of our actions and intent. So when practicing yoga or union in our daily life, we stay aware of these five different energy bodies around us and five elements that makes us, and aligning these two together in our action is to be in communion with our true self. In the next talk, we would discuss about the science of Kundalini, the references of it throughout the history, and so on. We will discuss about four core traditions of techniques in yoga, ranging from physical, the hatha, mental, laya, verbal, the mantra, and raja, the mind, exercises or yogas, in order to make each energy body strongly aligned. Feel free to research into these different things. The reason I throw these Sanskrit words within these talks is that you can go back and research and look up and experiment to find your own truth. As always, thanks for listening to it, and take these things as a starting point for your quest by questioning this further. All the sources I used for this learning could be found on the Medium blog of Journey to Seer. I would like to thank all my eternal gurus for helping me write this blog. If you have any queries or feedback, please email to me on journeytoseer@gmail.com. This is your host signing off, Shunya. Thank you. Good luck and good night.